For Charlie 2 Bravo, this is NNN0 Juliet India Victor, with propagation being less than optimal. All of the training for the next several sessions will be available via stream video. Information on how to view the video training will be forwarded to all stations via email. Today's training regarding ICS, I spell India Charlie Sierra forms, is intended to introduce the default form used by the majority of agencies served by Navy Marine Corps Mars stations in the event of an actual event. Because the agencies we serve rely upon these forms, it is imperative that Mars, in particular the staff net control and traffic reps, stations be well versed in the use of ICS forms, particularly ICS figures 213. Again, this training is simply introductory. All stations are encouraged to take advantage of in-depth training provided by most local emergency management organizations. While there are some excellent software programs available to aid in the generating, sending, and receiving of these forms via Sierra Charlie Delta, it is good to understand them from the context of Sierra Sierra Bravo transmission. With that in mind, a PDF, I spell Papa Delta Foxtrot copy of ICS-213 was forwarded to all Florida stations earlier today. All stations are encouraged to have this form available for reference during the upcoming training sessions. ICS-213 forms will be utilized for formal written traffic, both Sierra Charlie Delta and Sierra Sierra Bravo, which is part of the official incident record. Much like Echo Echo India reports and other messages passed on Mars circuits, the ICS-213 is pro-form consistent. At this point, it can be asked why not simply use existing Mars formats for traffic. Per Chief Navmar Corps Mars broadcast 0713, quote, "We are to establish relationships with the emergency management agencies in our communities," unquote. This is done to accomplish a new component of the Mars mission of being, quote, "compatible with the National Incident Management System." I spell NIMS, November, India, Mike, Sierra. The new term coined for this aspect of our mission is Defense Support to Civil Authorities, DCSA, I spell Delta, Sierra, Charlie, Alpha. The operative word here is support. Our mission is to support these civil authorities as they have standardized on this form. To best accomplish this, it is imperative to assimilate into their culture. These agencies include, but are not limited to, Department of Homeland Security, FEMA, I spell Foxtrot, Echo, Mike, Alpha, SHARES, and the U.S. Coast Guard. Again, referring to the Chief's broadcast of 0713, we are to, quote, "leave our Mars hats at home when we engage in DSCA and become a team member with the other individuals who are all providing support to civil authorities." In that light, there are some cardinal rules to follow when utilizing the ICS-213 form. First, do not reformat messages, either those received as ICS forms or in the formats of other served agencies. Fortunately, the vast majority of forms for transmissions will be in the ICS format. An advantage of the ICS-213 form is that it employs common sense, is straightforward and practical. Beyond that, using it employs principles with which Mars stations are already familiar. As operational messages, they are to be routed by the most expedient method possible. Also, we are to follow the ABC concept, which is Mars stations we already practice. Alpha for accurate, Bravo for brief, C for clear. Do any stations require fill on this information? Over. This is NNN0 Juliet India Victor. First, let's look at what information would not require the use of an ICS-213 form for a non-Mars served agency. Record traffic is not necessary for most real-time tactical communications, as in it would not be necessary to use an ICS-213 form for most routine task assignments and completions, most routine resource coordination, direct conversations between third parties, or life property safety concerns. Those would be time sensitive and could be handled without an ICS-213. As for what would require an ICS-213, formal messages, It would be used for station activization or closure, damage assessments, shelter EOC status, sit reps, resource request, or ICS facility relocations. Now let's take a look at the form itself, referring to that PDF form that was forwarded to all Florida stations earlier. As it was said, this is a pre-forma format message in that both stations or all stations involved would have the same form. So at the very top in the header, you do have a to box and a position box and a from box and a position box. So when saying to, it would not be necessary when using Sierra Sierra Bravo to say to, I spell Tango Oscar. That is already included there. Would be the same for spelling words that might be understood, such as subject or date or time, and also the message. Immediately following the header is the message box, where the body of text would be placed. And then finally a signature and a position indicating who it is that has signed. Under that would be a reply, should a reply be necessary. Having seen the format of the ICS-213, one question that arises is, how can messages be referred to, tracked, acknowledged, filled, etc.? While it is not appropriate to change the format of the ICS-213 itself, it is perfectly acceptable for serving agencies to include headers or preambles that initiate and conclude transmissions of the form. As an example, the standard Navy Marine Corps Mars formatting, which includes date, time, group, serial numbers, to, from, etc., can be included at the beginning of the transmission and then stripped from the final delivery to the served agency addee. Discussion of how this is accomplished is beyond today's discussion. However, it will be included in future training before the next exercise. This concludes today's training regarding the ICS-213. Do any stations have any inquiries? Over. This is NNN0, Juliet Indy Victor. Nothing heard. Next week we will examine how to pass the ICS-213 utilizing both Sierra Sierra Bravo and Sierra Charlie Delta, in particular utilizing the FL message software. Over. This is NNN0, Juliet Indy Victor. No additional stations heard. Out.